Gentlemen, future of cloud in Europe. Can I perhaps ask each of you to begin by saying, what is your perspective? What's the key issue or obstacle that we have in Europe for being successful with cloud? Why not then?
My view is that cloud computing is just the tool for innovations in different areas. And the success of cloud in Europe is very much depending on the success of innovations in Europe. And then we need to talk about what are the strengths of Europe in difference to other parts of the world. Because those strengths, to extend those strengths in the future will lead to the strengths of Europe as a total. If we think about, for example, the car manufacturing industry, there are a lot of car manufacturers in Europe who are successful globally on the world. The same as in Japan, for example. So if cloud can enable them to develop their business in the car manufacturing area, that is, for example, one field where cloud can be the innovator for and granting for the success in the future. If there are areas where we are traditionally not very strong in, that will not change because of the cloud, because we are still lagging behind others. So that we have to concentrate on where our strengths are, and that may be regional, geographical borders, but it may also be on a global base.
So who would like to pick up next? A comment or observation?
Well, I'm not European, but
an outside perspective is often useful.
When you look at cloud is it's very open, and as David mentioned, it's crowdsourcing. It's combination of both L and R, and it's got to be open. And the reason why there are many companies who is so successful are in the United States is because it's open, and it's open to invite many people from many different countries. And so it's so attractive to be there and easy to do business, and that's why you find more innovations there. In order for Europe or even Japan or anywhere to be successful in cloud, is really, you need to really open up and invite many people from many different countries, and let the place to be competitive, and let the place to be attractive for people to get together. And that's how I believe you can be successful anywhere, including Europe.
Thank you. I've got two Davids, so which... David, isn't he? Reaching for the mic.
Go ahead. Hi, I'm David Swatsky from Dimension Data Marketing, and if you can tell from my accent, I'm from the United States. I see the different regions. I'm responsible for different regions throughout the world, and I think cloud is certainly a global opportunity, but at the same time is very regional and localized. We all have our different data sovereignty rules. We have different levels of SLAs that we have to follow. But I also see that if it doesn't start here with innovation in Europe, you might miss the boat as far as having an opportunity or a platform, and having cloud being a center for opportunity in the cloud in Europe.
I think I just try and like to consolidate all those ideas. It's all about innovation. I totally agree. But innovation is driven by collaboration. It's driven by diversity. And Europe has a much better chance of delivering diversity than the US, perhaps with the exception of some places like California. So how do you attract diversity? I think that's really the key to gaining innovation. How do you attract talent into your country to then be able to innovate? And then once you've got a really hot product, then you go to your largest addressable mass market, which is the US. And a number of people I've spoken to the last 2 days, they're at that point of going and opening up a US office and, if you like, becoming US. So it's almost part of the sales delivery process or the business rollout, I think. But innovation starts with diversity, and if our countries don't encourage that and encourage our young folk to go and live elsewhere, then I think we'll lose it. So the cloud, I think, goes right back to that point.
Thanks, David. Does anyone have any comments or questions that they'd like to contribute? Because this is your last chance to get feedback and advice and wisdom from a great line of speakers here, and a really diverse line of speakers as well. We have 3 continents, 3 of the most significant continents.
And one incontinent.
And indeed, 4 continents represented here. I didn't count you as an Australian, David, because you've been so in Europe for such a long time. But since we're counting continents, why not? Any questions or comments? Let me touch on one of the questions that does crop up, which is this NSA PRISM issue, which we learnt today prompted the Cloud Partnership Steering Group to say, well, we need to actually have a charter for cloud, which actually sets down some principles. But of course, there is this danger, Bernd, which you've alluded to, of which others have mentioned as well, of a kind of Fortress Europe mentality, of people turning these data protection and privacy issues into a kind of protectionism of the cloud. Is that, are we going to avoid going down that path, do you think?
Well, the whole story starts with the fact that there used to be an uncertainty since we talk about cloud from the beginning on, which was different in the various fields, and this was initiated due to the public discussions about uncertainties and accidents which happened to mainly the global players, but which have been communicated quite far. This generated uncertainty. And we have also seen public discussions about global players who are collecting data in a high extent and have been in discussion because of that. What we have seen now is that the PRISM and NSA scandal is an additional subject where users get uncertain too, and uncertainty, as you all know, is no good business basis. What the Commission is trying to do is they try to form a single market, a single European market, where the conditions are similar over the various countries involved, which in my view is an absolutely must, because the providers as the customers who are acting cross countries nowadays have to deal with different legislation, even with different data security regulations in the various countries, which makes it very different. And privacy is a sensitive area in that field. Now, when it comes to a certain, cross-country regulation which is accepted by the countries, this will help to solve a lot of headaches. And the Commission, for example, has initiated the drafting of a code of conduct. That code of conduct is aiming for that the industry may accept to that once they have studied it, and which grants for a certain quality of privacy granted by the providers. It is still a need and a responsibility with the customer, how he deals with his data, of course, but there is a certain, in the way of handling it, there is a basis which can be given through that data protection privacy. Next to that, we have the European data data privacy regulation on the table and discussed very much. We had that panel discussion this morning where we also touched down on that. There are a lot of problems with it, or let's say discussion points with it, but in general thinking, it is the need for a unified cross-border regulation. The slides you had with the United States, one language versus 28 languages in Europe is telling this story as well. So if you want to reach a broad market, then you have to have a unique selling position on that, and that is including security.
Any other comments on data protectionism as opposed to data protection? Okay. So last call for questions or comments. Okay. And yeah.
I guess it's related to the subjects we've just discussed, I guess, but I get the feeling that in the US they are far more permissive, that they let things go to see how they work, and then they come back and they regulate later. And so that enables them to move very quickly. Whereas I feel that in Europe, for all sorts of kind of cultural and historical reasons, the first step is always to stop things and say we need to work out how to control this before actually doing anything. And by the time they've worked out how they want to control it, it's too late to do anything. I don't know, and there's all sorts of reasons. I mean, sometimes there's national interests involved, so some countries would want to slow things down to give themselves what they perceive as an advantage. There are some historical reasons where some countries are very uncomfortable with issues of privacy because of history. I just feel as if the only way we can succeed, and the time is quite short, is to somehow quickly come to an agreement to be more permissive. So certain people might be more uncomfortable than others. We know we're going to have to come back and clean it up later on, but if we spend too much time talking about frameworks and thinking about privacy regulations and cross-border laws, it's just going to stop the whole thing. I think it would be too late for us to catch up. And so I guess I wonder, because we've got an international panel, to what extent people feel it is possible to kind of overcome the differing opinions in the different countries and sort of try and agree to let it all go for the greater good,
Well, I think to some extent, and you mentioned this in your presentation earlier, the Brits maybe are not so keen on regulation as some of our European colleagues, and we do seem to invest a lot of energy in regulation. Maybe we're putting too much into that and not enough emphasis into innovation. Is that a summary?
But it's also what are the chances that we can get rid of that? We overcome it somehow.
Right. Does anyone want to comment on that?
I think it starts in the education system. Having had my children go through the French system, it was all about knowing the one and only right answer. And if you're doing mathematics, that's probably okay, but for everything else, it's a delusionary goal to seek. But if you can get people to say, I don't know, but I'd be interested to find out, I think that's the tipping point of the mindset that enables innovation, that enables that acceptance of resting in the unknown, but being comfortable with it. And I don't know how you get there, but I think what holds us in the past, what's the chain on the elephant's leg, at least from my first-hand observation, is education system.
I was just going to say there definitely needs to be a balance between regulation and openness. Europe is a little bit more conservative, and America, yes, we're more open. We race to get there. A lot of it is based upon economics and how you're going to make your first dime, or how quick can you make it. Getting back to the other point also is I think there's a difference between commercial data and government data. We're not going to stop governments from spying, but we do need to have control over privacy and what that means to each country and its citizens. I think the cloud is out there, it can be abused, but getting back to the other point, there need to be regulations and laws for commercial cloud operations and government cloud data operations.
I think this relates to what I said too, and also resonate with what Ian has said. What I see, cloud is like entropy, and water goes to the lowest place and flat, and the cloud and crowdsourcing by cloud cannot stop. And if you try to protect, then you are slowing down innovation. I think rather than being protective, you need to be more innovative, how you can secure the data, how you can protect the personal information, rather than legally protecting it. But there should be a way to lessen the concerns people may have, but psychologically.
Thank you. So, Bernd, we should give you the last word, I guess.
I'm not
It's
used to it,
your
don't
show.
wear it.
Your show.
No, well, one last point regarding the NSA subject. I think there is an emotional reaction next to all logical subjects or political subjects to be discussed, and the emotional subjects lead to the fact that European providers, for example, want to take benefit out of the fact that due to the espionage activities, customers are uncertain, and saying, well, while you stay with a European provider, you are on the safe side, so you don't have the risk of being spied, is from a company perspective, from a provider's perspective, maybe an argument. But it leads to the fact that in public, the idea pops up that it is better to stay in a country rather than to use the international internet. And that is the beginning, or the risk of going for protection. I'm not saying that is happening, and I'm strictly against it, but that is the risk which is coming along with that. Apart from that, I think we have discussed this subject quite intense today, starting this morning with a panel discussion, and now I'm closing with this thing. So it seems that this is really moving our industry, and I think we have to work on solutions on that. You raised that point that it is always the question of balance, and I think we have to have a protection mechanism which is not overprotected, which avoids, you said that it avoids innovation. On the other hand, it has not been too low that the risk of being getting in the loss of privacy is given as well. So the balance is, to find the balance is necessary, and that is what needs to be aimed.
Thank you, Bernd. Actually, someone has come in with a late question, so we're going to take a late call.
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question. When talking about the future of cloud in Europe, you've mentioned examples of the United States, but if we look into the direction of the Asian countries, in your point of view, which countries in Asia are good examples of adoption of cloud, and what we can learn from the countries over there? Maybe Japan, South Korea, Singapore. If you have any insights about that, it would be very interesting to hear.
Okay, so you have 30 seconds to give an insight.
When I think of the answer to the question, I have to stop and check. When we say cloud, at least I default to thinking about PCs connected to the cloud, and I think that's an error. If we say mobile, which is enabled by the cloud, then we can see Asia has got enormous mobile penetration. So I think in reality they're so far ahead of us we can't even see it in the same terms as we're thinking about cloud in Europe.
Any other feedback there?
Just a picture I have in mind is the fact when we have been in Beijing with a 15-head EuroCloud delegation attending the Chinese Cloud Computing Conference. We have been totally surprised by the fact that there have been 4,000 people, more than 4,000 people attending. And the average age of the people attending has been, I would guess, around 30, 35. So they are too old for being still students, but too young to be not involved in the new technologies. And I was totally impressed about the quality of speech. They had sessions going on about big data and how to use big data to optimize traffic in the city of Beijing, I have in mind. I was totally impressed about the quality and the power, innovation power coming out of these presentations. And it was accompanied by an exhibition, and that's what we could see. I mean, we could not read what in detail was written in Chinese letters, but as what we got explained and what the services are about, that is also impressive. And just today we had a European Chinese workshop where a company from China is collaborating with the European one, and it is impressive solutions which are existing there, even in the collaboration with Europe. So I could imagine that in the future we will see, in not too long time, that we will have another very strong ICT nation popping up, which maybe also be an interesting, a hard competitor, but also an interesting market due to their size, and that is China.
So I'm from Tokyo, and so probably it is better to describe not only cloud, but the entire sort of city as a society. People who come to Tokyo may know that if you ride on the train today, you all have a pass. And it's the IC card, and it got the all the information of yourself and also the money. So we can pay with the card. And that means that everything is connected, all the information is collected. And that can be processed in the cloud. It's the city itself is built in to get all of the information. But talking about the protecting the personal data, we cannot use those information effectively today yet because of the resistance by people that this is my information, why you use it for the business. And so we can't resolve those issues yet, but the infrastructure is there, and I think the cloud is a way to accelerate those innovations, and we think by combining those social infrastructures we have in Tokyo, maybe we can provide innovative solutions, which can be maybe something that you may want to also look at.
Well, thank you everybody. We are well out of time now, so I think we should wrap up there and filter outside for the cocktail reception. I say cocktail, I don't know what they've got out there, but I think it's got alcohol in it, if you choose it. This event has been a wonderful 2 days. It wouldn't be possible without the support of our sponsors, and I particularly like to say thank you to Dimension Data, our diamond sponsor, and to our gold sponsors, Fabersoft, Fujitsu, Telindus, and my mind is failing me now, and indeed Cisco. Thank you to all of our sponsors for their support. Thank you to all of you for coming, and I'm very grateful to our speakers as well. Thank you, and look forward to seeing you here again next year.